The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the producers and the individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the staff of the Sun Prairie Media Center, its members or underwriters, the board members of the Media Center Commission, Charter Communications, TDS Telecom, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jamison Rabbit, and the man seated next to me once played Ming the Merciless in a high school production of Flash Gordon. His name is Mike Roth.
Yep.
All right.
I really don't have much to say, except for I do like Flash Gordon a lot.
A lot of eyebrow acting in that role.
The Queen soundtrack pretty much makes that whole movie.
Yeah.
Just Flash. I remember when I was younger and I was trying to find the CD that has Flash on it. It was really difficult in the 80s. Only time I was able to get it is a pirated copy from Europe.
Do you know that was my one of my alarm clocks, my Sunday morning alarm clock for a number of years?
Really?
Was the slow drums building up and then Flash? And like, I'm up. Here we go. It's a good way to wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
On a Sunday morning, you know?
I just
easy into it.
I just had old-timey blues.
Oh.
Yeah, I wanted to be woke up very sad.
Got an old blues man sitting in the corner just playing a harmonica?
Yeah, just, hey, Mike, how you doing?
Learning more and more.
Doing great.
Sir, we have some movies to talk about this week, and it's going to be a fun throwback. I'm excited for it towards the end of the show. But let's get it started off with our streaming spotlight this week. What do we have?
Well, I'll take that one. Between Two Ferns, the movie. As you know, Between Two Ferns was a funny or die situation where Zach Galifianakis would interview famous actors and totally just rip them apart instead. Extremely funny clips, but then they made a movie. And in this case, we have Zach Galifianakis. There's a huge fire. His studio is destroyed. And then Will Ferrell comes up with an idea to continue the show, but he has to get 5 interviews done in a limited amount of time and then have the tapes to his desk right away.
Right.
They go out on road trips. Zach Galifianakis takes his team, unpaid. Carol, played by Lauren Lapkus. Cam, who's named because he's a cameraman.
Right.
Ryan Gull, and then Boom Boom, which she was not named after being a boom operator.
That's what you would assume.
That's what you would assume. But she was played by Javini Olano?
Sure.
I am not really sure.
There you go.
Actually, that'd be great as like a really, But either way.
This set, you watch our first episode. Very similar set.
Very similar set.
We might have only had one fern at the time.
Did we? I think we did have a fern.
We had a TV set up behind us with a fern.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very public access.
Very much.
We're not as funny. So the series is them on the road with a bunch of weird things that happen, but all the weird things that happen just seem goofy, and to me, seem goofy, a little bit too stretching to try to make a movie.
It was a very thin thread to try and tie the interviews.
Yeah.
You know, the meat of what Between Two Ferns is.
The interviews are still funny.
Oh my God, they're great.
But,
and the best part about these interviews is that Zach Galifianakis plays up his awkwardness.
Yeah.
And also like scathing interview style.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always really gotten the A-ist of the A-list celebrities. I mean, he's had presidents on and all, and just go with it.
Yeah.
And that's always the fun part is like, you know, because I think that's the whole conceit of the show is like, well, we bring on these celebrities who kind of do the same interviews on all the talk show circuits and tell the same stupid stories, and let's go roll a clip of the movie.
Yep.
Like, what about if somebody didn't kiss their butt in an interview? Just kind of.
And I love how the ending of this movie, their gag reel or their little clips and stuff, is all Zach Galifianakis trying to stay in character, and all these actors trying to pretend that they do not want to be there with Zach Galifianakis for this interview.
It's interesting. So the director, Scott Aukerman, hosts a podcast I've been listening to for 9-10 years.
Uh-huh.
So last week he had on the 4 main cast members,
Yeah.
and they were all talking about this movie
Ah.
leading up to the release. And it was funny because one of the things that they talked about was getting these big celebrities on. You got David Letterman on.
Yeah,
and
who was fantastic.
One of their things is Zach likes to try and get honest reaction from them. He comes up with these absurd questions.
Yeah.
And they have to tell them, like, no matter what you feel about this question, you got to answer it. Because too many times he asks a stupid question and they just laugh.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not what we need for the movie, though. We need you to try and answer it so we can keep rolling with this. And a lot of that was also in those bloopers was them just like cracking up and it's like, answer the question. And I've always loved Between Two Ferns.
Yeah.
I mean, it parodies everything that we do, and it also, the movie kind of, because of his arc too, it kind of parodies that American dream of becoming a celebrity and will you sell out when the time comes?
Yeah.
While also being incredibly stupid. And I love it. I mean, look, we're not that far. We're one good David Letterman interview away from being right there with him.
I don't know.
No, you don't
I think
we get Dave on.
I think
That's
I'd
it.
be kind.
Could
I'd probably be more like Chris Farley. Where that thing you did? That was
my favorite
awesome.
thing about this movie was when he had Tessa Thompson on, and she was in the movie Creed. He says, "You were in Creed." She's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "What's Scott Stapp like?" I love it.
Yeah.
This is like Cannonball Run, where the outtakes are almost better than the movie.
Oh yeah. The outtakes really kind of enhance, I think, all
Sure.
the segments I did like about this movie,
Yeah.
and I do love those interviews. They're fantastic. As a movie together, I was getting bored.
What did you end up giving Between Two Ferns?
I give it a 2. There's good parts. It really shouldn't be a movie. It should just be cut up and put on Funny or Die.
I wouldn't argue, but I did have a good time watching it.
Good.
I gave it 3 out of 5. It's got laughs.
Nice.
Zach Galifianakis works for me.
Yeah.
Let's go to what we have on the marquee this week, sir. And I have a film called AdAstra, written and directed by James Gray. It stars Brad Pitt as a man named Roy McBride. As we enter this, Earth and basically the entire solar system are being hit with these blasts of antimatter from across the galaxy. And it's causing some real problems for everyone involved, shutting down electronics, all this stuff. So this very accomplished astronaut and soldier, Roy McBride, is tasked with a mission to travel across the solar system, way out to the reaches of Neptune, in order to find out the truth about his father, played by Tommy Lee Jones, and the mission that his father led 30 years ago to travel across the cosmos and discover some things and figure out what's going on with these antimatter blasts. He's chosen because even in extreme events, such as falling from the upper atmosphere without any, just free falling, his pulse never raises. He never panics. He's cool. He's calm. He's always the man ready for the job.
I personally would have been done after Space
Yeah,
Monkeys.
yeah, right. He is unshaken, as though he's almost not human. So along the way, he goes on this mission, and he starts to uncover things about, all kinds of things. Finds his humanity as he's in the search of a ghost. And, we meet Donald Sutherland, who is kind of a man who is there to help him for a bit of his mission. Ruth Negga is there to kind of help him along the way. Liv Tyler plays his wife in flashbacks only, basically, for the most part. And there's the film itself is kind of interesting that there's kind of really some tremendous sequences in this film. Like there's one where he has to make a stop on the moon, and we find that the moon is basically like Mad Max style at this point, where it's kind of lawless amongst countries, and bandits kind of rule the day on the moon. Like if you go out beyond the protected area, you're probably going to get hit by space bandits.
I like the world that they built. There's a lot of flaws in this world, like scientific flaws that made me kind of roll my eyes a little bit. But I did like this kind of near future, just a couple of generations type sci-fi world. What would it be like if we colonized the moon? Well, it would probably be a very capitalistic.
We'd ruin it.
We'd totally make it into a war zone and stuff like that. But some of the things really didn't click, like how antimatter works or how fast things travel. It takes a while to get to certain things. Even like the communication where they have a laser, and yeah, that's very near future. Laser can
Sure.
work. Laser still takes 4 hours to get to Neptune.
Lasers.
Same thing with rocket fuel and stuff like that. It's like, these are awesome. You're using technology that we're already using.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about fantasy is you can make up stuff, and then I can believe you more instead of using real things and be like,
But
oh.
see, that's why it's called science fiction, not science.
Well, they took science,
but it's not
and then
science
this-
truth. It's a sci-fi movie.
True, but like when you have a sci-fi movie like Star Trek, it's like, how do they get to point A to point B? Well, it's just stuff that we made up and you don't understand because it's way beyond you.
But now that is like heralded as the most truthful of the sci-fi
And
franchises.
that makes me feel more believable when you're like, well, we're going to make a rocket do something a rocket never did before, or possible. I don't know.
Here's my thing with these movies. Movies like AdAstra are like really like my jam. Like this is the type of movie it's like the kind of music that I could listen to all day.
Yeah.
I like the idea of one man kind of isolated from others in this desolate, hostile space, discovering himself, discovering his humanity.
Yeah.
We had a film earlier this year, High Life, Robert Pattinson. We absolutely loved. Like this is like my favorite genre. I like some of the things that they did with this that were different than ones that I've seen from other movies in this genre. I really liked Brad Pitt in this movie. I loved him in this movie, as a matter of fact. I think this is better than what I saw him in a month ago.
Really?
Yes.
I don't see it. I used to get a lot of passion from Brad Pitt and Brad Pitt movies.
This
but
is
lately,
not a role that has passion in it, except for there's a moment with 20 minutes left that I really got. It got me good.
He does a lot of he does that little smile thing, and he does stoic more often. But I'm not getting the character that I want from him. I don't feel like he's acting hard at all.
See, now I really dug him in this, and I like that, eventually everyone who was around him got killed.
Yeah.
He usually by his own, because of things that he did, for the purpose or not.
Yeah.
Everyone's dying. He's isolated, and then we meet Tommy Lee Jones, and we find out that that why he is that way, and why they push people who love them away so hard, and why they choose to be isolated, and he discovers about himself, and that stuff is just, I'm all on board for that stuff, and I thought he played that really well, and he gets this overwhelming sense of emotion that kind of breaks that shell that we saw for the 2 hours of the movie or whatever.
I wanted to like this movie more. I thought the cinematography was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I like slow, deliberate type scenes, but a lot of this movie, it was slow and deliberate for scenes that I didn't think were very powerful. It was just slow, and then they would break up that slowness with some unneeded action, like space monkeys or
Space monkeys? That's terrifying stuff.
Or it is. Or I mean, the pirate chase on the moon was cool and all. I didn't think it belonged with what they wanted me to feel, and that's definitely my opinion. I just didn't really like how they broke it up with silly stuff when it was supposed to be, when it felt like it should be more serious.
What did you give AdAstra?
I gave it a 2.5, and really it's beautiful to look at, but I thought some of the silliness with the dramatic overtones just didn't meld with me.
I didn't find any of it to be silly. I think silly was never a word that came to my mind. I loved it. I'll probably go see this again in theaters before it leaves.
No.
Really enjoyed it. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It's worth checking out. It's probably better than anything else you're going to see in theaters right now.
No, right now this is.
I mean, to be fair, we're not reviewing the Downton Abbey movie, which finished first in the box office, because neither one of us have seen a minute of that show, and you don't want a review of. Then there was that one British guy. I don't know why he was doing that.
I don't know. There was an inside joke.
So if you're wondering, like, why are they talking about that? Because we know nothing about it, so it would be worthless.
But it is unfortunate. It's September, and it's like this every year, where friends will come up to you and go, "What's good playing at the theater?" And you're just like, "Well,
here's the thing.
uh,
Here's the thing. In a couple weeks. All right, let's take a look at what's next on the marquee, sir. What do you have for us?
Rambo: Last Blood. This is the 4th installment, which I'm actually
Fifth
fifth.
installment.
Wow.
Yeah.
I really thought it was just Rambo 1, 2.
3, and then Rambo, and then Last Blood.
Wow. Well, here's I did not know of 4, and hopefully that if I watch that,
Well, they
would've made
showed you
more
clips
sense.
of it in this movie.
Yeah, at the very end, right?
Yeah,
Okay, one of the things I had a problem with right away, and this is going to go into the movie.
Okay.
The movie, Sylvester Stallone, for some reason, which is unknowns to me, all of a sudden is doing really well as a ranch owner. And
Well, that's his family ranch.
okay,
You see him, because you didn't see Rambo. Rambo ends with him walking home to his family ranch.
well,
So this picks up 9 years after the end of Rambo.
okay.
So that's kind of the tie-in.
I thought he went to Afghanistan, and then all of a sudden,
No,
well,
because he was living in somewhere in the middle, like the Philippines or somewhere in the last one, and saved some missionaries who were being murdered. And then it ends with him trying to get away from it all, reset his life, and as credits rolling, he's walking down that long driveway.
okay, well, all right. So we're gonna fast forward it to the point where he's on this ranch, and he is the kind of a caretaker of a niece. Her mother died. I'm assuming it's Sylvester Stallone's sister, because definitely,
probably.
yeah. And she wants to meet her father that's in Mexico. Her father is a bad person, and the spot that she wants to go into Mexico is extremely dangerous. Even though Rambo has said, I'll just call him John. John sounds better.
John Rambo.
Even though John says, don't do it. Your father's a bad guy. He's not worth it. She goes anyways. Father is not great. She gets kidnapped by a sex trafficking ring.
Turns into hostile for a few minutes.
Turns very terrible for quite a while when John asks them to. He didn't really ask. He did it with brute force to have his daughter back. And then he prepares for the ending. I don't really want to just. But pretty much that's the gist of the movie. A lot of it is looking forward to the Home Alone moment where.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, he lures. So he goes to Mexico to save his niece.
Yeah.
Rescues her, and then lures the bad guys back to his place, and then starts setting up micro machines and paint cans and everything, and he's getting ready for the Home Alone moment, which is the second half of the movie.
Yeah. Which both halves were really disappointing to me.
Okay.
The first half, I was questioning, and probably because I didn't see the 4th installment. I'm probably like many people, though, because I did not know that existed. So I was confused on why Rambo, who in the first movies, he's a man who's suffering from PTSD, and he is kind of a loner, and then all of a sudden, to me, he pops up, and he's like, pretty well to do.
You see, I mean, they address it in this movie. I mean, he's working the family ranch. He's taking care of his niece. He's taking these pills. He's having the flashbacks. He tells her, because he seems like a softer, gentler Rambo.
Yeah.
And she says, well, you've changed. And he's like, oh, I've never changed. I'm just trying to keep a lid on it. And you see when he finally decides that it's time to be Rambo, he throws those pills away that are keeping the rage down.
Yeah.
And he goes out for revenge. And this is the most brutal of the Rambo movies. Like, there was a couple of scenes I had to look away as he's breaking clavicles with his hands and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm good with that.
Yeah, that was his first big scene. And they wanted to make sure that first big scene was
that was
very
a brutal, gruesome scene.
And then he pretty much doesn't act like the Rambo I know, where Rambo kind of thinks a little bit before he gets brutal. I mean, just kind of, he has the traps and stuff like that. Yeah. For the first half, he just kind of barges right into a bad situation.
Well, that's because the rage is coming out.
Ah.
They're messing with his family. He doesn't have any family.
But he had the rage before when he came back. And
when
he
came
was still...
back, where?
Well,
I'm confused.
Like in the first Rambo movie, and people were stalking him and stuff. He was suffering from the PTSD.
Yeah.
He was still able to sneak and do the things that Rambo make the traps and stuff.
That was also
he barging right into.
He also had his soothsayer of Richard Crenna talking to him the whole time, saying, Rambo, John, you got to come back. Come on, John, blah, blah, blah.
He kind of needed that.
Through the first, 3 movies.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that man anymore.
Instead, we got more of a Terminator-style Rambo until the end, which was a huge Home Alone moment, which was the most redundant of all
Dude, he's got
action movies. It's like,
such-
why'd you build a booby trap in the first place?
Such great kills. It's all cannon fodder to get to the bad guy. He's got to get to the big boss. But I love it.
True.
Like, you have a scene where you set up all these booby traps, and you have, like, you know, a guy steps on something, and like a big thing comes and takes the guy's head off, and then Rambo still comes by and shoots him a couple
Yeah,
times.
it's like, why'd you build a trap in the first
Because
place?
it's a Rambo movie.
Ah.
Because that's what he built these tunnels.
Uh-huh.
These tunnels were the basis of his nightmares when he was in Vietnam, and now he's using these same tunnels against the people that have harmed his family. I love that. He's inflicting his PTSD on these people.
I looked at it as the most redundant action scene ever, where he had to kill everybody 3 times
You
over.
do. That's what Rambo's always done. He kills. I think Stallone, like, he wrote this.
Yeah.
I think he excels at writing the aging warrior. I mean, that's his Rocky. That's Rambo. That's what he writes, the aging warrior. I think he does a really good job writing that character. I think if you enjoy Rambo films, they're pretty much all great, whether they are great or not.
Yeah.
Like, I love all these films. I recognize, like, yeah, Rambo 3 is pretty terrible. Still
Okay.
love it when it's on.
Was 4 better?
4 is really good.
Really?
Yes, 4, he is the quiet warrior who's tried to get away from this life and pushes people away that are asking for his help. And he's like, go away. I'm trying to meditate. I'm trying to be zen. And then finally he's like, okay, time to snap. I guess I got to kill everyone now. You guys done messed around too long. And so I enjoy these Rambo movies. There's also one thing, this is very personal to me, but there's one song that plays in this movie. He pushes play on the Walkman. There's speakers in the tunnels, and it plays The Doors 5 to 1, which is the theme song to my radio show, It's Time for 5, found on 103.5 The Sun.
No
every
shilling.
Wednesday at 3 p.m. That's my theme song, so that came on. I was like, oh, I like this.
Maybe I would have a different opinion if I saw 4, but the start of this movie, I just could not get invested with his whole situation.
I think it pays. I like that this movie pays homage to all the previous films at the end. I like that it ties them all together, and you watch kind of the transformation of this character from the young loner just back from Vietnam to the ridiculousness of Rambo 3, where he's in Afghanistan just mowing down helicopters, and to the quiet one of Rambo. And so, yeah, you know, I mean, when you look back on this movie, not a whole lot happened. Like, the story arc is like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very easy revenge tale.
When trying to tell the story, I just realized that I was telling the whole movie.
So have you seen Hostel? Have you seen Home Alone? Put those together.
Neeson should have had all
Yeah,
these.
exactly. It scratches an itch for me, though.
All right.
I don't know. What did you give Last Blood?
I really didn't like this movie. I gave it a 1.
Ouch.
Yeah. I'm assuming.
I gave it a 3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You had a great week.
Yeah, it's good movies. Yeah, man. Come on, it's Rambo. Either you like it or you don't. That's
Right.
kind of what it comes down to. Let's take a look back, though, for our Best in Show this week. And we have a film from 1935, Mutiny on the Bounty, from director Frank Lloyd. This film stars Charles Laughton as Captain Bligh. This is based on actual events that happened back in 1787. The story: a tyrannical ship captain who punishes his men, pushes them to the brink, and in fact pushes them to the point of mutiny as they reach Tahiti. It also stars the great Clark Gable as Fletcher Christian. Fletcher Christian is kind of the first mate who just kind of can't take it anymore, cannot take the abuse, watching the men be abused, pushed past the brink, and he leads the mutiny of Captain Bligh. As Captain Bligh and his loyalists are set adrift on a small boat, he swears revenge on these mutineers and shockingly survives the trip and comes tracking down all the mutineers to have them hanged and begins a lifelong obsession over finding Mr. Christian.
I forgot that I've actually seen this
Yeah.
movie, and when I rewatched it, I realized how good it was.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm surprised I forgot that I've even seen this in the first place.
It's great.
It is a fantastic movie. I love how Clark Gable is able to be that strong leader, but he never really gives in to Bligh until the mutiny part. He's always like, you got to listen to the captain. You got to listen to the captain. He put himself in his place, and it wasn't until there was a death of someone he really cared for that he just could not
caused
stand
this.
all this Bligh. And the actor who played Bligh, Charles
Laughton, yeah.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, he's great.
I don't think they could ever. And no, they did remake this
A couple
movie,
times.
but I don't think they could ever remake this movie without these actors and still have such a fantastic.
So
movie.
it's funny you say that because this film, so Charles Laughton Clark Gable, as well as Francois Tone, who played Yum, all three of them were nominated for Best Lead Actor that year. First time and only time that three actors from the same movie have been nominated for Lead Actor. All three of them lost, but that's neither here nor there. I thought it was really interesting. This movie was, for the most part, shot on location in Tahiti. They actually had to film a lot of it twice because they found out that they had improperly stored the film and it had been ruined.
No.
Go back and reshoot it. This was also MGM's most expensive movie at the time. $2 million to make this bad boy, 1935.
Yeah, 1935.
Big money.
It doesn't take much to be the most expensive movie. It's a movie's been around for.
So this
10
film
years?
won Best Picture. That's why we're talking about it. It beat out films like Alice Adams, Broadway Melody of 1936, Captain Blood, David Copperfield, The Informer, The Lives of a Bengal Lancer, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Les Mis, Naughty Marietta, Ruggles of Red Gap, and Top Hat.
We already discussed that they had a lot of best.
This
back
movie
then.
also got 8 nominations. As I mentioned, the lead actors. It was also, interestingly, it was the last film to win Best Picture and no other awards. No film has done that since, to only win Best Picture and get nothing else.
Wow.
Interesting thing about this Oscar ceremony, this was the first ceremony to hand out the Oscar statues. And it was also the last ceremony to accept write-in candidates for the categories. In fact, Best Cinematography went to a write-in candidate that was not nominated. Midsummer Night's Dream won Best Cinematography, wasn't even nominated. Kind of interesting. Wonder what would happen today if we had that. What kind of craziness would win if you allowed these move.org petitions to nominate.
I wouldn't doubt that in order to get audience, eventually they're going to have a Twitter feed nomination. And then it would be ruined. The whole ceremony would be ruined.
As you mentioned, this movie was remade in 1962. Starred Marlon Brando as Fletcher Christian. That version was nominated for 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, but won none of them. And then it was also remade in 1984. Now, I watched both of these remakes in the last week. This 1984 version I'd never seen. Get this. It's called The Bounty. From director Roger Donaldson, who did Cocktail. Starred Anthony Hopkins as Bly. He's very good in that. Starred a young Mel Gibson as Fletcher Christian. A very young Mel Gibson, 1984.
How did he do?
He was really good, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also starred Laurence Olivier in this movie, one of the great actors ever. It was Daniel Day-Lewis's first film.
Really?
Yes. As well as Liam Neeson's second film he ever made. Very young Liam Neeson with a horrible mullet.
Did someone steal his daughter?
No. But I'm watching it like, wait a minute. Look at these young, fresh faces on the boat.
I never heard of this version.
It is regarded, actually, I read about it, as the most accurate version of this story.
Really?
Yes.
Well,
yeah, interesting. But I
I
found it on Amazon and watched it. It was pretty good stuff.
Really?
Only it ends kind of at the mutiny. It doesn't do the whole chasing him down stuff. It's more or less they get to the island and that's the end of it.
Well, I guess that's pretty much the fluff of it because
story.
they probably didn't want to go the route of happy ending.
Right. So anyways, interesting stuff. That's Mutiny on the Bounty. Oh boy. Let's take a look ahead, sir. What is coming soon? The weekend of October 4th, we got a few movies. First one, Joker is coming out. Really excited for that. We also have Lucy in the Sky, which is Natalie Portman returns from space and can't adjust to this small world.
Who couldn't?
Who could? Pain and Glory, a Spanish film starring Antonio Banderas and Penelope Cruz. And then Dolomite is My Name in a limited release. This is Eddie Murphy's return to the big screen, and I hear nothing but rave reviews about his performance.
Really?
100%. Yes.
Well, he did get good reviews for his last thing.
I'm hoping this is a big one for him. But those are the films we'll have October 4th. Before we leave, of course, we have to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, The Palace. Thank you for sponsoring this program. We always appreciate it. Next week, we're going to be talking about films like Abominable. That word trips me up usually.
I am looking forward to this movie. This is going to be great.
We also have Judy, the Judy Garland biopic. And we have our first time ever reviewing a Betty Davis film for our Best in Show series. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
I'm excited.
Tune in next week to find out what that's all about, though. But until that time, I'm Jamison.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.